Reliance is going to mull the IPO of Reliance Jio. This is big news coming in, should keep Reliance Industries in focus. I know the timelines are set for a bit later on. This is big news in the telecom space. Discuss IPO in late 2018 or early 2019, so still some time away. But after, and this is, remember, the news coming in from Bloomberg, so we'll get in the Bloomberg correspondent who's broken this story as well. I think Deven Choksi is joining us. He tracks Reliance very, very closely. He tracks the markets closely. I'm sure Avinash will come in with his thoughts too. But Deven, your initial thoughts on this? I mean, much spoken about, never a firm timeline. Now we're getting these initial timelines of late 2018 or early 2019.
This is something which we have been always talking about, that at some stage the company would hive off the Jio business and make it a separate company. Now the very idea for making this particular business a separate company is to also, I think, provide the valuation to this particular business, as we all know very clearly. To get this particular valuation right, I think the right timing would be that when the company starts showing the performance on a profitable side. What we have seen in the last quarterly result is that the company has started making the EBIT level profit already. And what we are guessing at this point of time, that in subsequent quarter, with the number of customers increasing for Jio, the profits are going to be smartly driving up. In fact, I think the EBITDA level profit margin for this company would stay between 45 to 50%. So certainly, I think that would be the right time. 18-19 financial year would be the right time to go and hit the IPO and provide the valuation to this particular business. Today, the entire business is getting merged into the Reliance's core business, and which is not fully getting reflected. I always put across this argument that had Jio been a separate company, and I think had they gone for funding through the PE, the valuation of Jio could have been far exceeded the valuation of Reliance itself, I think, at the current level. So something which is now becoming reality as far as the profit is concerned, I would think that 18-19 should be the time to look at this particular subject as an IPO company.
Okay. Deven, now, you know, Reliance as a stock started doing remarkably well in the recent past after the Jio numbers started looking positive, much better than what the street was working with. Does this give any kind of a near-term trigger to Reliance at all? Or you presume that while this is slated to happen maybe end 2018, maybe early 2019, and therefore markets would probably, or people would want to believe that maybe it could happen even later than that, that there's no near-term trigger as a result of this. This is all slated for a bit later on, and until such time, the markets would probably grapple with the valuations, try and arrive at what could be possible valuations be, but nothing really in it for a Reliance stock investor really from a near term.
Well, I think you said some of the points, Neeraj, in your communication. I think the market would start calculating the valuation during this particular period, because if the event is known that if the company is going to hit the IPO, I think the valuation will have to get established. And this valuation would probably start getting reflected in the sum of the parts valuation of Reliance Industries per se. Good part of Reliance Industry currently is that in each of its businesses where they have completed the capex program, they have got a far better visibility of earnings going forward from this particular activity, including the refining activity, petrochemical activities as well. And the retail business is also being talked about as a separate business ultimately. So finally, Reliance is now talking of monetizing all its properties that it has built over a period of time. I think the difference would be that valuation would start getting reflected in some of the parts going forward in 2018.
Deven, when the last quarter numbers came out, Street was positively surprised, like Neeraj mentioned, but there were also talks of, the way accounting was done. So probably the coming quarters may not be as good. What is your assessment really? What do you expect, the contribution coming from Jio into the RIL P&L for next 2 quarters?
Well, I think as I was making a point, see, today there are already 15 crore customers approximately. My strong reading says that I think final year ended by 2018 March, 4 months from now. I think the number would stand anywhere around 17 crores to 18 crore customers for Reliance Jio. And my take is that I think in a full year of working for Reliance Jio, this year it has been half year working more because I think they started the commercial plan only later in the second half of the financial year. In a full year of working for Reliance Jio, My reading says that I think there would be somewhere around 30 crore customers, that is 18, 19. And on 30 crore customers, my back of the envelope estimate says, that based on the various calculations, that the company would be somewhere between 90,000 crores to 1 lakh crore kind of a revenue. And at EBITDA level, it would be somewhere around 45 to 50,000 crores. So somewhere, I think one will have to see whether these figures getting validated on a quarterly basis. I'm not too sure immediately that everything gets reflected into the quarter, because as you rightly said, some amount of accounting treatment done in the last quarter probably resulted into profit, and next quarter I think it may not be so. But the full year it will get evened out. So that is where my take is that at EBITDA level the company would probably show 45-50,000 crore EBITDA on a full year working basis of about 1 lakh crore plus revenue. So that was the time I think where you should be seeing these financial numbers on a quarterly basis and not now. That is what my take would be.
Okay. Devin, what does this news mean for the existing shareholders of Reliance Industries when the share is trading around the 900, 915 mark? What sort of value were you ascribing to the telecom business?
Well, on a simple enterprise value of 2 lakh crores, I think I would attribute 2 lakh crore worth of one time the enterprise value would be the value that I would attribute to Jio business for the time being. Having said that, I think the value could possibly start looking much bigger once you see some of the larger numbers as I was talking about tapping into the books of the company. The other part of the question that is what is the value for the shareholder? According to me, I think the shareholder would start looking at the possibility of they getting the share out of this particular IPO as far as I think the Reliance Industries goes. So let's see what way they structure this entire subject. But it would be too early to talk about it for the time being. But I would think that going by the history of Reliance, I think they would be probably rewarding the shareholders. So it should get reflected positively in the current market price of Reliance going forward. At least stock would probably find a good rating from current level onwards, I think, from where it is.
Sumit, you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Devan, you just said that you're valuing Jio at around 2 lakh crore rupees. Don't you think it's a very steep valuation, because Bharti Airtel, which has been in the industry for such a long period and has such a big customer base, has a valuation of close to 2 lakh to 3 lakh crore. So don't you think this valuation is very high for Reliance Jio?
Yes and no. Yes, more because I think I feel that in the near future you are not seeing the profit. That is why you feel, I think, that the valuation is high. And no, because as I was making a point that any company of Jio kind of a credential that has come up, if it is not into the listed market, I think if you start referring to the valuation, I think it will be far higher. Say, for example, I just use one particular analogy to drive this particular subject. AT&T and Time Warner, they are talking about the pipe model, and that is where they are getting merged. Today we heard the news that Jio and Viacom 18, I think they are talking about pipe model. The data is going to be the main driver, which is the positive aspect of Jio. And that's where I feel that I think Jio would be completely different compared to many of the telecommunication companies. They are using telecommunication channel as one of the channels to acquire the customers. Tomorrow it could be internet channel to acquire the customer. Third, it could be TV channel to acquire the customer. That is your MSO channel or DTH channel would be to acquire the customers. So according to me, I think they have the major amount of business model is on the data side and lesser amount of the business to talk about on the telecommunication side. I would clearly say so. Given that kind of a nature of the business and visibility of high amount of data possibilities or the data analytical part of the possibilities, I would think that I think this valuation is not high. Probably, I think in an unlisted space, I think this valuation would remain definitely high. If they had gone to PE investors, I think they would have found much better valuation than what we are talking about at 2 lakh crores currently.
We have seen the kind of performance that Jio had in the second quarter of financial year 2018. When do you expect Reliance Jio to turn profitable, and what is the revenue run rate that you're expecting from Reliance Jio?
Little early to answer that particular question, but I have the little bit more certainty on the number of subscribers. As I said that this year I'm expecting somewhere around 17-18 crore subscribers, I think, by the end of the financial year. And the next year, the full year working, I'm expecting, I think, the subscriber numbers to be somewhere around 30 crores. Assuming that after these 30 crore subscribers, which would only happen in the next year, 10 crore subscribers are at the higher end of the billing. And that is where I think they would probably drive maximum amount of volume of data and the profit for themselves. So honestly, I think I would not like to put the numbers at this point of time, but as I said that I'm expecting somewhere around about 1 lakh crore worth of revenue and an EBITDA of around 45 to 50,000 crore on a full yearly basis. That could be determining the higher amount of valuation. So wait and see. I have the calculation on these numbers. Would be unfair on my part, I think, to reveal, I think, the complete thing on the screen right now. But definitely, I believe that I think these numbers could possibly be driving the valuation on the higher side.
The reason why actually I asked
Okay, Somit, sorry I have to come in here because, and we'll take your question in a bit, Somit. Devin request you to stay on because Saket Sundaria from Bloomberg News, who's broken this story really worldwide, joins us right now with the details. Saket, we have a couple of those flashes, but what is it that you're learning?
Hi, Reliance has actually started an internal process to work on an IPO for Jio. It's still at a very early stage. The company is only evaluating various options, and we have learned that it's not funding that they require, but more of a valuation perspective and value unlocking. It's still some time away, probably early 2019 or so. That's the timeline that the company is working on. We still don't have any details on the valuations. That will depend on the timing and the actual numbers that Jio churns out in terms of subscribers, profits, and everything.
Okay. Fair call, Saket. Maybe you would want to stay on and respond to one of the queries that, or one of the thoughts that our experts have as well. And Somit had a question to Devin, but before that, Avinash Gorakshekar is here with us, and let's just take his initial thought as well, Avinash.
No, I think, Neeraj, this would definitely keep interest in the Reliance stock buzzing, because I think clearly, whether it happens in FY19 or whether it happens in FY20, I think clearly this value, unlocking kind of game is definitely something which would excite not only the institutional but even the large HNIs. And my sense is, I think, this is one business which is going to grow by leaps and bounds in terms of data and in terms of the market share, which they have grabbed over the last, say, 6 to 8 months. I think over the next 12 months, this is going to be more pronounced, and I think clearly the kind of valuation which this company will command is definitely going to be at a significant premium. So I think to that extent, I think it may take a little more time. It may not happen immediately, but yes, medium to longer term, once this happens, you're definitely going to benefit, and it would be a value unlocking opportunity for the Reliance shareholders.
Okay. Shrikant, any thoughts on the immediate impact on the Reliance stock price? Do the charts show anything?
I think, see, Neeraj, the stock is very clearly into consolidation mode, and even when the market was down, this stock was like comfortably above its previous low of some 870, 880, which was like quite surprising. And even if you go through with last 3 days, 4 days activity, the stock was like holding around its support areas. So one thing is very clear, that the stock is still into that strong, and it is the only stock which doubled in this year. So very few stocks have doubled since the opening of the 2017. So I'm of the view that yes, certainly all such kind of news are there. And on the dismissal of 960, we are expecting stock to hit the levels of maybe 1050, 1060, which is the ultimate target based on its multi-year breakout pattern. So even at this price, I think it's a strong buy to buy and hold for next at least few days.
Okay, Shrikant, many thanks for joining us today and giving us your perspective. Somit, if you have any other questions for our experts.
Do you think it will be advisable for Reliance to come out with this IPO before making any profits on the street? Because that was the reason why I asked Devin Choksi also whether when does he think the company will turn profitable?
If you're still there with us.
Sorry, it's for me?
Okay, no. Avinash, you want to take that question?
No, I think my guess is, I think unless the company breaks even on the cash profit level, I don't think this would be a possibility. I think the company will have to earn cash profits, if not the bottom line. And I think already at the operating level, the company has started making operating profits to the positive level. So I think cash profits, once they start breaking even in the positive, then I think that could be a possibility where possibly that could be the right time where they could look at kind of valuation for the Jio business separately.
Thank you.
Okay. No, fair call. Anything else that you want to tell us, Saket, before we let you go?
No, I think the experts are right on the profitability bit. The company is also waiting for its financial performance to improve. That's one of the key parameters that the company will also consider before it decides on the listing and the valuations front. And that's why they are looking at probably a 2-year kind of performance outlook. Once they complete the second financial year in 2019 March, that would probably the timeline that the company will decide on the IPO.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Saket, thanks for breaking this story and thanks for joining us as we discuss this as well. Avinash, thanks for taking the time out and being with us too, as well as Srikanth. And Devin Choksi, really appreciate you being with us and giving us your thoughts. Afraid we can't really reach Devin. I don't know if you can hear me or no.
Yeah,
okay, you're there. Okay, great. Yeah. Devin, I tried to ask you a question earlier. Maybe you didn't hear me. But anyways, the final question I think that Somit was trying to ask you was whether it would be advisable or whether you think it's pertinent to come out with an IPO in calendar year 18 itself, or would it get pushed to early 2019, to your mind?
See, timing would depend on lot many factors. I would rather think that we can only concentrate currently on what kind of business building that they do. And as I was making a point that I think one after another stream of customers that they add into the, like I think they added the customers from the mobile stream. Now if they start adding customers in from other stream like DTH stream or for that MVO stream, or the internet stream. I think if they start adding customers into other streams, because they are a combined, it's a unified network company. So if they start adding customers from different streams, I think that will ultimately put the data onto the bandwidth. And that's where exactly I think this company is going to derive its business. And my strong reading says that I think if they do it in this particular up to 18-19, definitely if they see the visibility, they'll go for the IPO in the financial year 18-19, maybe in the later half of the 18-19 financial year.
Many thanks, Devin, for joining us and giving us your view on that breaking news that Reliance Jio will be mulling to come out with the IPO, which means that they will be demerging the telecom business from existing company Reliance Industries. Well, no timeline yet, but what the Bloomberg story laid out was that it could come about in late 2018 or early 2019.